Welcome back to another episode of Two Idiots Doing a Podcast. I know we didn't have one last week, but 2 weeks ago was a longer episode, so hopefully that held you all down. I'm Nate, and this is Daniel. And once again, in case you don't know the premise of the show, we like to talk about ball, particularly hockey, college football, baseball, and then throw in NFL and NBA depending on what happens. So, and we like to try to prove that we know more ball than the average idiot at ESPN, Fox, Skip Bayless. To be fair, it's not hard because Skip Bayless has an entire video of him debating if Aaron Rodgers is good or not. So, standard there is pretty low. So we will start off with we have a couple big things to talk about today. There's a enormous elephant in the room. Yes, De'Aaron Fox was traded. That's not. We will talk about that, but we rarely talk about NBA. But as most of y'all know, we watch Dallas and Chicago sports. So Zach LaVine hurts a little bit, but the Luka trade is crazy, and there's gonna be a lot of ranting about what all transpired there. And we will get to that in a bit. But first, we said we were going to do a sports tournament 2 weeks ago. A high school 16-team tournament on the website that we've been using. And we will be doing that right now. So first of all, I will go over, share my screen, and I will show the teams that are in the tournament this time. So we're doing the year 2005. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so there's 16 teams. So, and you will show to the right here what state they're from. So, the number one seed, Morris football. I grew up from this school 20 minutes away, sort of a rivalry. They were called the Redskins. Depending on if that offends you or not, blah blah blah. We don't really care. That's what their name is, but if you really don't like it, just call them the commies or the football team. That's why I have an asterisk over here. So, but that was their team name. And a little fun fact about the, Morris, if anybody remembers the Gail Lewis trend, she did work in the same town as the Morris High School football team. So don't mean to brag. I have been in the same Walmart that Gail Lewis retired in. So little flex on my part.
And where the jersey's raised.
Yeah, and where it's raised. I actually know exactly where it's raised. And actually the craziest part is I stood in the same exact spot as where she announced it. It's so weird. But so that's a little fun fact about Morris. And then the 16th seed is out of Texas. I naturally chose the Texas Powerhouse and the Feast Homeschool Patriots. Yeah, I found a homeschool team. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Out of Oklahoma, we have the Guthrie Blue Jays and taking on the Florida Seminoles, Sanford Seminoles. And then the 5 seed, yes, a powerhouse in Idaho, the Rigby Trojans, taking on the 12 seeded Massachusetts Walpole Rebels. I apologize, by the way, if I butcher names. This might be the other name that causes some controversy. The top seeded Florida team and the White Commanders, taking on the Soldotna Stars out of Alaska. So as you can tell, we chose some great, powerhouse football states in Alaska, Idaho, all those sort of stuff. The 6th and the 11th seed will be the 6th seed is the, oh gosh, this is where it's going to really struggle. Olentangy Berlin Bears, and they were out of Ohio. And then the main team is the Portland Bulldogs. And yes, believe it or not, my high school is coming up, but here's Daniel's Lakeview Centennial Patriots. Went 3-7 in Texas, so they were bums in 2005 in Texas, but they're so freaking good compared to everybody else. It's how good Texas high school football is. They were still ranked 375th in the nation, despite having 7 losses. So just a brutal schedule. And taking on the natural 14-seeded Middlesex Chargers out of Virginia. Unbelievable name. That's quite the school name, to say the least. And then here's my my high school, Minooka Indians, taking on out of Illinois. The first time I had them do this in a tournament, they did have the biggest upset in losing to a Canadian team. So I have Elkhorn beating us because Minooka just blows. We are the definition of mid, um, to say the least. So taking on a team out of Nebraska, the Elkhorn Antlers, in our final matchup. Yes, the number 2 seed is out of Hawaii. I don't know how we managed to do that, but apparently this team is cracked. Ranked 317th in the nation. Kahuku Red Raiders taking on Pope John Tigers out of Massachusetts. So got some interesting names. And but first of all, we will we'll go over here, and I gotta find my screen here. So now I just gotta type in the matchup. Morris, Illinois versus Feast, and we'll see who wins this. I don't know. Out of San Antonio, apparently. And we'll see the projections. Yeah, not really surprised. Morris is 100% projected. We'll see if they cover the spread, though. And they don't. So the homeschool team, unfortunately, is shut out 62-0 in a brutal, embarrassing fashion. So on to the next one for Morris. Next team will be Guthrie versus Seminole. This Seminole one's going to be a big pain to find. Guthrie versus Seminole. There might be quite a few Seminoles. I was worried. There we go. Versus Seminole Sanford. All right, so this is a pretty reasonable matchup for an 8-9. I'm gonna go with the Seminoles here. Who do you think is gonna win?
I'm also gonna take the Seminoles.
I love it. And the Seminoles do pull off the upset, 20-13. Pretty good game. So all things considered, probably won't have a lot of those. So I'm pleased that we had one upset and one decently competitive game. So the next one will be Rigby Trojans versus the Walpole Rebels. So let me find my screen here. Why can't I need to just do this all in one browser. Nope. Rigby versus Walpole. I'm clearly technology inept, so just bear with me, people. All right, so this is the same exact win probability Minooka had their first time in a separate tournament. So just saying Walpole could pull this off. I think Rigby will win it, though. And Rigby dominates. Rip Walpole. It was a heck of an effort, but they did not really stand a chance there. So the next matchup is the White Commanders versus that name's crazy. This is versus the Saldotna Stars. I don't know how many white. Yeah, oof.
That's crazy.
I think this is them. I think that's them because it's Florida. Saldotna. I don't know how to spell this. I should look at the spreadsheet. SOLD. That's what it was. SOLD. I would copy and paste these in, but I also include the high school team name, and they don't include the high school name in the. It's just the school and the where they're located. So, 2% chance for Alaska.
So you're telling me we have a chance
if Alaska pulls this off. Oh,
hey, we weren't shut out.
I'm gonna sim at best of 7. I'm just curious, really quickly. How long? Okay, it would have taken forever for them to pull it off, and they still allowed 34 in that one. So, RIP Alaska. Congrats on not being a 100% lock shutout. I'm getting scared. We're getting close to my high school. I'm not liking this. But we'll take on the Berlin Bears and the Portland Bulldogs. We did not use easy names to.
No, we didn't.
Or what the heck? It should be Orland. OROL. There's no R. I'm dyslexic. Orland. There we go. And Portland. So this one could be interesting to find. There's I like that Portland, Maine pops up first. That's really funny.
Portland, Oregon.
Look at friggin' Portland, Oregon. It's like, what? Holy crap. Okay, I guess there's Central Catholic there. But I think it's still funny that the main one pops up first. Yeah, because we all know about, it's a 25% chance for Maine. Here we go. I'm rooting for Portland here. Let's see. Oh, 20-3. Not really a surprise. But 25% chance was a little bit higher than I would have expected that. So, all right, Daniel, let's just hope and pray your team isn't upset here. I find it very hard to believe.
As long as we make it past the first round, I'll count that as a win.
Yeah. You shouldn't. Jeez, they're
it's the Garland.
This one, Garland. Yeah. I was like, what the heck? San Angelo. And then they're taking on Middlesex. Come on, Nate. And the fact that there's 3 of these, what the heck? What are we doing? All right, you literally can't lose. Golly, that's so bad.
Watch us.
No. Wow. You cover the spread too, so I base the spread off the most likely score. You could also do off median. Either way, you guys covered. So, for future tournaments, if it's like one of those matchups, we may debate having first round. You have to cover the spread to move on, so you can have more upsets. Because right now, the only upsets in 8 and 9, and in hindsight, a Florida team would probably beat most Oklahoma teams. So I really don't see that as a true upset, in my opinion. All right, here we go. I think it's going to be the first true upset because my high school is just so insanely mid. Frickin' Minooka taking on Elkhorn out of Nebraska. Battle of who's got the better corn. So I'm scared. Gosh, we're going to lose. Oh, thank the Lord. Minooka holds on. A good game. This was, you know what? If we're not going to get upsets, can we at least have competitive games like this? I am happy that a 7-10 turned out to play like a 7-10 matchup. So, and then the last matchup is the Kahuku Red Raiders versus Pope John. What the heck are we naming our schools, guys? Pope John Tigers. There's Pope John the 8th out of New Jersey. Okay. Pope John, 3 Pope John polls. Okay, 100% chance for Hawaii. Would not have guessed the Hawaii.
Yikes.
I think they might win this thing. Holy crap.
Honestly, the Kahuku was a great name, which is why I chose them. The first one that we chose, or that I chose that we couldn't get, was Kamehameha, which honestly, even better. But unfortunately,
we couldn't find it on there. 2. Yeah, they probably have data going a few years back, but they didn't have anything for 2005, or they're named differently. Yeah. So I'm not going to switch back and forth to my screen because it's a pain in the butt. So the second round matchups: Morris, the 1 seed, taking on Seminole Sanford Seminoles. The 4 and the 5 seeds between the White Commanders and the Rigby Trojans. The 3 and the 6 between Lakeview Centennial Patriots and the Alentagny Berlin Bears. And then, my high school's cooked. We're taking on Hawaii. So, gosh, dang it.
Maybe you'll have a nice trip to Hawaii.
True. I'm not complaining. It's better than corn, that's for sure. At least in my opinion. And then we'll take a Seminole. Let's see how close this is going to be. Seminole Sanford. I think there's going to be probably 75% chance. It might be higher than that. Wow.
Oh, wow.
And whoo! It was close. They came close. I'll just do a quick best of 7 here. And in a best of 7, game 7, they would have won. But it seems like Morris would have dominated them for the most part. So we did get a close game out of that, but shout out to Morris. Unbelievable. We might see Illinois win something. Keywords might. So the White Commanders just saw their Florida counterpart lose to Morris here. We'll see if they can meet up with Morris and take him down, or will the Rigby Trojans out of Idaho, baby, as a 5 seed. That's naturally what we thought was going to happen. In Idaho, almost getting a first round bye if it was a 12-team tournament. And looking at this, I'm disrespecting Rigby. I'm going to take them to win here. You know what? Screw it. So, oh my gosh, this camera sucks. It cannot stand for the life of it. So I'm just gonna hold it for the rest of the time. All right. So here we go. And oh my
wow,
gosh, Rigby took it personally. R.I.P. the White Commanders. It was not a good round for the state of Florida. And naturally, we have, I totally thought Idaho was going to be in the Final Four. So, so we did have our second upset, albeit it being a 4-5. But that game was a dominant blowout. So, next one, Daniel, your high school is up again. Could be scary. There you go. But you got to take on Ohio, the one that I can't spell or pronounce. Out of Lewis Center, Ohio. So, okay. All right. You don't want to join the club as 80% upsets. So, oh my.
That's wild. That's crazy.
Oh, that hurts. Daniel, it hurts. Now both of our high schools. Yeah, that's embarrassing. That's even more embarrassing for you because you're a Texas school. Unbelievable. I almost highlighted the wrong team. So we had back-to-back upsets. So Ohio is in the Final Four. And then we have a chance to have a second Illinois team. My high school, can we redeem ourselves? No, we can't. We are so insanely mid. It's not even funny. But I just hope we cover the spread. Here. What's the... Holy crap. It's going to be so bad. All right. You know, pretty embarrassing.
20.
We scored 20. We did score 20. We actually, in the best of 7, we won 2. So, we lost the NBA. Wait, would have still been swept in an NBA. Oh, good Lord. You know, hang on. I want to cover that. All right. We did not lose a game by 42 points just now. All right. So our Final Four, very expected. In Illinois, Idaho, Ohio, to be fair, is one of the powerhouse states for high school football. Not on the level of Texas by any means, but Ohio does produce quite a bit of talent. So, and Hawaii. So 3 of the... Illinois somewhat reasonable. The other 2, who would have guessed they'd been here? So we will take a look here. Morris versus Rigby. I think Rigby might pull this off.
I hope they do.
Morris is really good this year, but man, Rigby is on a tear right now. Morris, you gotta do this for Gail Lewis. So, oh my gosh, Idaho is fucking...
Idaho's in the championship.
Oh my gosh, bro! Wow, they lucked out too. Because looking at the rest of those, wow,
they get decimated in the best of 7, but they win a 1-off.
Hey, Morris, you're now the second highest upset I've ever seen on the site. So, suck it! Woohoo! All right, so we do it. So, you know what? Maybe we don't need to have the spread because we have a 5 seed in the championship and could have a 6 seed. Either way, really considered miraculous that a Hawaii team probably has got a lock for the chip. But we don't know. Morris looked like, I mean, comparatively, again, look at the rankings really quick. They were top 200, nearly top 250 in the nation out of nearly 14,000 schools. So that's insane. Insanely good. And so the fact that Rigby just took them down, albeit top 1,500 is very respectable, would not have guessed that they've had this insane run. So good for them, though. So Kahuku and Ala, whatever. I just can't pronounce it. Kahuku. Bermuda. I'm not going to sing it. I don't want to get copyright strike. All right, so I don't know. I mean, this is an 84-16. We've seen a couple 80% upsets now, and we're gonna see. Oh, not even close. Not even close. In a best of 7. Wow. Okay, so Hawaii kind of lucked out there, but to no surprise, based off seeding and rankings, Kahuku does pull up the upset. So the good news about this, guys, is the 1 seed is not winning the tournament. I don't think they won our last one either, looking at this. Yeah, we did have 1 in versus 2, but we at least have a 5 seed this time. So Kahuku versus Rigby. All right, Daniel, who you got?
I'm hoping the Hawaii team.
I'm hoping Idaho just for insane upset, but Hawaii kind of deserves it. So Ken Rigby, you know, best character out of regular show. Can Rigby pull it off? Oh, it was a good game. It was a
Sheesh.
good game, but Hawaii will win it. And looking at these other Sims, I mean, a couple of them are pretty bad, but that's a decent game. That's a good game. And then 2 blowouts for them, ironically. So, but congrats to the state of Hawaii for being nominated best high school state football in the nation for 2005. So,
That is
good for you,
wild.
Hawaii. We're going to stop sharing my screen now. We will do more tournaments like that in the future. And hopefully my camera won't fall for the rest of the time. Holy crap. But that was fun. So we have a couple quick topics before we go on an epic Luka certain NBA player rant. Don't want to spoil anything. So I had one quick topic, which is a little game, and I ran into a trivia question, which is it's NFL related. And the question is, what one Super Bowl matchup that's ever happened can never happen again? So I'm going to see if you can figure it out.
One that is like no longer possible?
No
or
longer
that
possible.
Okay.
It's happened before, but it could not happen again, no matter what.
Does it involve a team that like moved?
Yes.
So like St. Louis?
It involves a team that moved, yes.
Okay. I guess it also could be San Diego. I don't know, honestly.
I'll give you like 2 minutes. If you don't have anything, then I'll let you know.
Is San Diego one of the teams? Well, I don't even think they've ever won.
It's not San Diego.
Well, then it has to be St. Louis, doesn't it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, sheesh.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is where I'm a basic football knowledge kind of guy, or especially for the NFL.
You'll be, if you just gotta take it like by team, and you know this. It's just it's an older matchup. I'll give you that. It's happened a while ago.
Oh, interesting. Like within the like 2000s or even before that.
Well before.
Oh,
Really old. I'm talking. My dad's not even double digits old.
oh, dang.
So that gives you a hint. My dad was born in '63, so it happened in the '60s.
That's crazy. See, my football knowledge is like 2000s and after that.
No, so you don't have any guess.
I couldn't even think of it.
All right, it is the Jets and Baltimore Colts. Could not happen again because the Baltimore Colts moved. So
And now we're Indianapolis.
And plus the Jets,
Well, yeah, they have to make it to a playoff first.
Yeah, for real. Even though Mark Sanchez has more playoff wins than a lot of quarterbacks, but I won't mention who. But yeah, so that was my question. So I got you on that one this time. So
yeah, no, that was a good one.
The player. That one took me a bit too, but it didn't take me a whole lot of time because again, I always go down by division and just try to think logically. And I start with AFC East always and just go down all the way to NFC West. So I was like, oh shoot, it might be Jets Colts, but then I kept going. As the further down I kept going, I was like, it has to be that. It can't be anything else. So I mean that one was hard though.
My question is, how did the Colts and the Jets play each other?
It was pre-merger.
Okay.
So it was so the merger was 1970, I think. And I think Super Bowl is 68 or 69. So I think that's a big part of it. And so I think that's the other part of why it couldn't happen anyway.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
So
just like the Jets having the least amount of AFC East titles.
Yeah. Fifth out of 4 teams. Jets
Fifth
do
out of 4
poverty.
teams.
To be fair, you could say that about the Bills having the least amount of Super Bowls between 5 teams, you know.
That's
Colts
also
have
fair.
one, Jets got one, albeit there's debate as to whether or not the Jets-Colts one was rigged. I do not believe so, but it is a sensitive topic, especially with how NFL's going these days. But
I was gonna say, well,
yeah, the Bills got quite a bit of catching up to do to New England. So come on, Buffalo, get it together.
fair.
But so you can say the same thing about that, but it's just something about the Division One that just hits funnier to me. I don't know, but okay, I see you had something about the Stars, and then we can move on to a couple different NBA trades and a Luka rant. Crap. Nico Harrison rant. I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah, no, I mean the Stars have been on a heater. I would even say in the month of January, just in general. That's why I'm repping them.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I saw a stat where they had the most points / wins in the month of January, and no one had it better. So, I mean, going into February, they were the third had the third most points out of any team in the NHL. Winnipeg's obviously number 1. Number 2 is the Capitals, and the Stars. We're sitting at 3, which is crazy to think about because we did get off to that slow start. But honestly, have rebounded pretty well, and it seems like the injury bug keeps hitting. You get one guy back and you lose another. We lost Heiskanen in the Vegas game, which honestly, getting CC helps, which we'll talk about
tough
later.
Replacement though.
Yeah, Heiskanen is just a different guy. A good thing is we have another guy like him with Thomas Harley.
True,
so,
he's a beast.
Yes, we lose Heiskanen, who we most dearly enjoy watching, but Harley has stepped up and actually done pretty well in the different areas that Heiskanen has solidified his excellence in. Also, Bischel has decided. I mean, I wanted Bischel coming out of preseason to make it with the team, but I also understood why he didn't make it. But since coming back up with us, it's like, okay, this guy's ready to be with us. And it's going to be hard when Heiskanen comes back on who do you either send down or send to waivers. But hopefully that's sooner than later, but it sounds like Heiskanen is month to month. He had surgery, so we'll see how that goes.
Long-term IR him.
Yeah,
Vegas.
That's what has been being talked about because they don't actually know when he's going to come back. And if that's the case, then the Stars will have $13 million to play with at the trade deadline, which we've already made a move. But I feel like we still need another guy, and we can go get him because then we would have the salary cap. So I think overall the Stars are in a good spot. It sucks that we share a division with Winnipeg because they decided this is the year that they want to, at least in the regular season, show out. Which honestly,
first one, so we all know.
Yeah, and who knows? It may actually work out better because last year, unfortunately, the Stars got Vegas in the first round. So hopefully, as a 2 seed or 3 seed, we get a better matchup that favors us right
Minnesota right now, but there's still time for Colorado to catch up or Minnesota to Minnesota it. So
yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we hate Colorado anyways, but
the Blackhawks could go on a 25-game win streak.
I mean, the Central, there's 4 teams in the Central that are going to most likely make the playoffs. So.
Yeah, it's a deep division, and then Nashville and Chicago.
Yeah,
it hurts.
And the West isn't that great. You have Vegas, and then it falls off pretty drastically after that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting playoff hunt. Stars are looking great. Yeah, like you said, slow start. You're like 18-11 at one point, and ever since that point, you're at what 33, 34 wins
Mm-hmm.
to about 17 or 18 regulation losses. Again, I think you're slowly accumulating a couple overtime losses too. That was the big concern was a lot of regulation losses and not getting overtime, and that two is still really low, but you're getting a lot of wins with it. So you're gaining a lot of points, and that's huge. Um, so good for the Stars. Continue to let them to cook, and hopefully they can go on a deep playoff push, even if Heiskanen doesn't start upon that's playoff time, but still got a little bit of time. Um, we will talk more about hockey in a bit. We have a lot of trades to go over, and there will be quite a few more that I want to talk about next week. But we will highlight the biggest ones. But first, it's going to be NBA, and we're gonna say I'll bring up a couple different trades first. We talk very briefly about them, and then the bulk of the time is going to be talking about a certain GM, how he's a clown, how he's a moron, how we should ship him, you should call ice on him, stuff like that. So, um, first trade being the De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio. From my understanding, San Antonio gave up three first and 3 seconds. They get De'Aaron Fox, and then the Bulls gave up Zach LaVine, which they needed to do for a bag of potato chips and future considerations to be poverty later. So from what I understand from this deal, is the Kings had a poor return, the Bulls had a terrible return, and the Spurs absolutely fleeced. So getting De'Aaron Fox, albeit on an expiring deal, I think, still huge for San Antonio. You're right there in you're about 4 or 5 games under 500. But I think De'Aaron could really help turn that team around, and got good leadership with Chris Paul, and Wemby is on a league of its own, and obviously doesn't have to worry about a certain other international superstar anymore in his division, which again we'll bring up a minute. I'm trying to delay it because this rant is going to be insane. So, do you have any thoughts on that trade before I cover really maybe one or two other ones? Very brief.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think San Antonio got a good trade out of it. De'Aaron Fox seemed like he wanted to be in Sacramento for a while, so I feel bad for him in that sense. But if not Sacramento, if San Antonio is able to sign him to a long-term deal, having him and Wemby next to each other, I think will be a scary duo. Because I think Fox is kind of a underrated and undervalued. He's an underrated guard, and I think Pop especially is going to be able to bring out the best of him like he has with many of his other guys.
Next trade is obviously the most important player the Lakers acquired is Mark Williams. I'm really avoiding this other trade, but this is another big one. Lakers got very young here. They get Mark Williams out of Charlotte. They gave up Dalton Netsch. I don't watch basketball, people. I just know he's white, so I apologize if I know I butchered it. I do know he can ball though. Cam Reddish, who is not really turned out to the guy that people hope he would. Decent player, but not for the value that he was drafted at. And then a couple first round picks, a swap in an unprotected one going to Charlotte. So, yeah, it seems strange for Charlotte to do this. I get they stink. And at this point, they should probably just traded LiAngelo Ball because they're just not going to, or frickin' is it LiAngelo Ball? This is how little I know basketball, bro. No, that's Jello, isn't it? Friggin' LaMelo, thank you. Sorry, I was too busy thinking of Swerve. All right, fire song by the way. I'm not gonna get into that. But yeah, it seems like the Lakers kind of fleeced here. Got a really young center to pair along with their other young superstar that will be named later.
Bronny James.
So Bronny James, yeah, there we go. Mark Williams and Bronny James will be an iconic duo. Any thoughts here before I go on? One more trade and then the big one.
I mean,
Or two more.
I liked Dalton, but I don't know much about Mark Williams, so they need a big man. So
He's averaging
they
about
got
15 and 9, and he's 22 or 23. So
so he's doing his thing.
he's doing his thing.
The Lakers all along said they wanted a big man. They went and got their big man, so I feel like for them that's probably a good thing for them. Also, in return, Dalton's a great player, like you said. He's a rookie, and he's already putting up pretty good numbers as a rookie. Great shooter, pure shooter. So honestly, it's probably a pretty even swap, which is honestly probably what both sides wanted.
I think the only tricky thing is when you already have LaMelo. Yeah, you already got the guard position covered. It's why it's kind of weird what Charlotte did. It made sense for the Lakers side of things. Certain guy they acquired kind of has that role covered. Again, Bronny James. So, I said two more, but I'll probably just summarize one of them, and the other one is a brief talking point. Jimmy Butler to Golden State in a big three-way trade. I need to pull up the details here because I don't remember. I know Utah was involved, and they, again, kind of just got scraps because Utah moment. And apparently, wait, no, Utah was involved in I'm sorry, they were involved in the other for names trade. I lied.
Were they not? I thought they were involved in this one too.
Were they? Shoot. See, that's why I can't remember. Okay, you're not. Oh, there we go. ESPN, thank you. Well, and I know Jimmy Butler also signed a 2-year extension, so I know that happened as well.
After he said he wasn't going to sign an extension with the Warriors if he went there, so
yeah, this dude's a clown.
What a clown.
I hate Jimmy Butler. Respectfully, I can't really find an easy. Yeah, basically he went to the Warriors after Golden State was not able to get Kevin Durant, in which Jimmy Butler would have gone to Phoenix, which, in my opinion, I think Phoenix sort of dodged bullet because that doesn't fix any of your problems whatsoever. I still think they probably should have traded Kevin Durant. You're not winning with Beal, Durant, and Booker. Just clearly not. They're like mid 500, whereas Golden State does get to Jimmy, who can help them make a playoff push, but just hard to know. He's kind of a short fuse, and he's this is his fourth team now. He's kind of complained out of. I get Minnesota, and I understand Chicago. Believe me, Chicago owners are stupid. But Philly was a little weird, and now the whole Miami situation. You went to 2 NBA finals and you're throwing a fit. Like, it's starting to think Jimmy's a problem. But ultimately, Golden State does get their guy, and they're hoping he can make the best of it. So, any thoughts on him going there before we... I'm just going to summarize the last trade before we just rant here. So,
yeah, Golden State had been out looking for superstars in general. I saw that they reached out for Kevin Durant. Apparently, they reached out to Anthony Edwards to see if he was even willing. Yeah,
did not know that.
They reached out to pretty much every All-Star on the All-Star list to see if they were available, and Jimmy Butler
they reached out for Derek White.
was the only one that I guess they got kind of, in a sense, a thought back on being able to be traded. I know KD kind of turned down the trade and was like, I don't want to go back. So I think Phoenix was willing to make that trade, but I don't think KD wanted to go back to Golden State. I also don't understand why they didn't try to go get Jordan Poole. It's a guy that already knows the system. Got punched in the face.
Issue.
Apparently they're fine. So,
I call nonsense. It's Draymond.
That's fair. It just brings you another shooter.
Yeah,
without
true.
The problems.
No, I get it. Yeah.
And honestly, in my opinion, probably a better shooter than Jimmy. I understand Jimmy's Jimmy, but there's just a lot of problems that come with him.
A lot of baggage with Jimmy, and he's not the same Jimmy. At least that we know of. He could bounce back, but he's getting older. It's tough call, and I just don't think this is a move that makes you an NBA title contender.
No.
Oklahoma City, Denver, just kind of in a league in their own right now. So the last move, I'll just summarize this. It's Chris Middleton getting shipped. Another guy done dirty after all he did for Milwaukee. Shipped to Washington for Kyle Kuzma. I think Milwaukee got fleeced, to be honest. I know Chris has been hurt most of the year and hasn't really looked like the same guy, but it's been a lot of complaints that come with Kyle Kuzma from being bounced around from where he's been. So just Milwaukee is now essentially, to me, potentially dug a nail in the coffin of keeping Giannis. You got rid of Drew Holiday, which I know you got Damian Lillard, but look what happened. Drew Holiday, it's not a coincidence the Celtics magically won 15 more games because they were gifted Drew Holiday. And Milwaukee literally did that to themselves and screwed over the Eastern Conference, at least last year. Haven't looked as good this year, but at least for their standards, but they're still looking solid. And now you ship away Chris Middleton. And not even to another team that's even remotely respectable. This is this year's Pistons. I think it's disrespectful. I hate this move by Milwaukee. It's one of my 2 Fs in the trade deadline. I just don't understand what this move does for you. I'm perplexed. So, but we can talk more about that later. Do you have any thoughts on that really quick? And then we gotta get the ball rolling.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was disrespectful. The guy has put so much into your organization, and then you do him like this. I mean,
disrespectful.
It's dumb. I don't think the Bucks did anything.
They didn't improve their chances, in my opinion.
Your chances are the same, if not worse.
They're probably worse, and I think again, you hurt your chances of keeping Giannis. I know he's not a free agent this year, but I mean, Giannis's big thing is he's built a lot of these relationships. Obviously, the whole his brother. Not gonna try to say his name, but temporarily getting rid of him, that kind of pissed him off. He didn't like his coach, sort of stuff like that. I think it's this kind of thing that you're gonna drive away Giannis. Just stop getting rid of the guys he likes.
He can come to Dallas and join another superstar.
That's the only way this trade that we're about to talk about makes sense to me, is if you get Giannis.
Kyrie Irving, that's what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. But all right. So we're finally addressing the elephant in the room. I tried to stall it out because there are other big things to talk about, but this is massive and it's disgusting. It's insulting. We have had a few days to let this settle in. Still can't cope. But in case if you live under a rock or you don't know basketball, Luka Doncic, generational talent, by the way. This is not no bum. I understand his defense isn't great, but he's so insanely good at scoring. It just completely just overshadows his defensive abilities. But Luka Doncic got traded to the Lakers, albeit Luka does not look happy. He looks very mad, in exchange for breaking Anthony Davis, as the joke my friend and I always make, because, anytime you see breaking news with Anthony Davis, he's out 8 to 10 months with a torn unibrow or something stupid. Sorry, Anthony, you're a great player, but you're going to get ripped a little. Max Christie, who, to be fair, 15 and 14 in his first 2 games with Dallas. He's 21. Could be a decent prospect. And then a first-round pick in 2029. Not this year. Not next year. Not 2027 or 2028, which those 2 picks, Dallas is going to be trading away, or it's going to be swaps because of the whole Grant Williams situation. You go 2029? I don't understand. And then on top of that, Dallas gives up, obviously, Luka. They got rid of a couple second rounders, gave him up to Utah, and who else? They traded somebody else, I thought. Maybe it was just Luka. There was a separate trade with Dallas for Quentin Grimes for what's his face. But that'll be another day. It's not. It's
that one's
horrible.
not as important.
That one's not as important. But needless to say, a week ago, whenever it happened, worst day in Dallas history, which says a lot because certain president was shot at in 1963. But just horrible. This trade is just so unbelievably, mind-blowingly, really poor choice of words. Just really stupid. Just horrible. Nico, maybe there was pressure from the owners, but from my understanding, the owners did not have a general awareness of this happening. It sounded like Nico Harrison did this in secret. And not only that, by the way, guys, he reached out to LA. Everybody thought when he was reaching out to trade him, they thought it was a joke. And he was for real. Just unbelievable that the Lakers got away with highway robbery here. And if any of you I've seen a few comments in the Dallas Mavericks Instagram, believe me, I'm starting a trend called the Fire Nico Williams or whatever his stupid name is in the Instagram chat and DMing the Dallas Mavericks. But I'm seeing quite a few people say, move on. I understand the move on part, but there are a few people I actually think they got better and they're better off with Luka. I just don't know what you're talking about. You're slamming on his defense. What did Kyrie and Clay do on defense? These guys don't do squat. You're acting like this team got better defensively. It really, 1-for-1, Luka for Anthony, yes. But Anthony doesn't help you defensively much because they already had elite rim protection. And the issue with Dallas is they don't have good perimeter defense. It's one thing to trade Luka for, Jason Tatum or friggin' Jaylen Brown. Guys that can actually defend people at the perimeter. No, you get Anthony Davis, who, was healthy last year. But, the people that say, well, he played 70 games last year. How many he played the year before that, or the year before that, or the year before that? Those 3 prior years, he missed 30-plus games each. So don't give me this crap that he's healthy. 1 year of being healthy after 4 years of not does not prove anything. On top of the fact that Anthony Davis isn't healthy right now. So just don't, this is an F for Dallas unless they win a ring. If you win a ring, fine. But even then, it's still a C to me. Because you just forfeited years of youth to win right now, which I just don't see it happening. You're getting older to face a team, a certain Oklahoma City team that is got the youth and the talent to wax anybody right now. You have to deal with Cleveland, who is cooled off a bit, but has 40 friggin' wins. And I know they beat Boston last night, but did they really beat Boston? Because Boston's thing this year has been shooting 53s, and if they make half of them, they win. If they don't, they lose. And more often than not, this year, Boston has won. So I'm not convinced Dallas truly won last night. But
I mean, talking about last night, Boston came back from almost 20 down.
Right. That's the other thing. That's how good this team is. They could be down to, and the other night, they were down 26 to Philly. Pretty bad. But they won by nearly double digits. I just can't be sold by what happened last night. Albeit Anthony Davis wasn't on the court. And Max Christie was nice. I'll give Max that. But it's just, you can't convince me this team could beat Boston in a 7-game series. I just, especially since what we saw in the NBA Finals last year. Who was the one guy that was good in the NBA Finals last year? For Dallas. Luka. Everybody else, minus 1 game for Kyrie. Kyrie was bad the rest of the series, but he had a good game 3. Or a good game 4. Whichever one they won. But every other game, Kyrie was bad. Freaking everybody else for Dallas stunk. And now you get rid of the one guy that carried you the whole way. And I don't know. It's just frustrating. Nico, I don't understand why you did this. Maybe there's a process. I'm not as angry now than I was when it first happened, but I'm still really freaking mad. This trade does not benefit you in any way unless if you win. And you chose the wrong year to do this. You do this 2 years ago when the Celtics weren't as good, when the Thunder were still developing, fine. But you chose a terrible year to be doing this. This is not a good year to be experimenting. The Thunder only gonna get better. The Thunder are 8 years younger than the Mavericks. The Thunder are setting themselves up for a dynasty. The Celtics are setting themselves up for a dynasty. The Cleveland Cavaliers have set themselves up for a few. They, speaking of which, also acquired a guy from Atlanta, and they got better. And now the Lakers get younger. Lakers might not be championship contenders this year, albeit they are 29-19. But them and getting Mark Williams, they got a lot younger. And now the Lakers, it's on top of what they signed for agency, because, being able to play with Luka and in the city they're in, they're going to set themselves up for being a championship contender. And let's not forget the most casual NBA player of all time, friggin' Denver Jokic. As long as he's healthy, they're a championship contender. And if Minnesota can figure it out, friggin' Minnesota can beat this Dallas team right now. So, it's just perplexing. Nico, this is so utterly stupid. It's not even funny. But if it works, I will shut up and never criticize this man again until he does another stupid thing. I mean, that's just how I roll. But we'll see. So that's my rant. I've been ranting long enough. You have a lot more to rant out about. It's your turn. So
yeah,
let it all out.
I saw it and I was like, this is the stupidest thing that any Dallas owner GM has ever done. And I suffered through John Daniels as a Texas Rangers fan. It doesn't make any sense at all. The fact that you did it behind people's back in secret, and the only team that you went to in the LA Lakers shows that you know what you did was wrong. Number 2, if you're going to trade him, at least say to the rest of the NBA, hey, Luka's on my trading block because you're going to get a lot in return for a guy like that. Because regardless what you're going to do, you're going to upset Luka, which is what happened. So you might as well just say, hey, I'm putting this guy on the trading block, upset him, rather than saying, hey, I'm going to go trade you secretly. You don't know anything about this. You're going to learn whenever the news breaks that I just traded you. So, also, the guy's 25 years old. He's been with the Mavs, I think 7 years at this point, 6 years. I think he came when he was 18, so 7 years with the team. He took over after Dirk, so there's a lot of sentimental value there for the Mavs fans. Like, we went from a great international player and Dirk that spent 21 years with the Mavs, retired, passed the torch to Luka. We wanted Luka for the rest of his career. Luka wanted to stay with us. Luka didn't want to go anywhere. Mark Cuban was willing to divorce his wife in order to keep Luka on the team. And then the year after Mark Cuban sells majority stakes in the team, Nico Harrison goes out and trades Luka. That's wild to me. Anthony Davis is a good player, and I will give that to him, so I'm not going to harp on the Anthony Davis side of things. I'm over that. Anthony Davis is a great player. I will take Anthony Davis, but even if the Mavs win this year with this, I don't care. Because Luka is 25. Our window has now closed as a championship contender because Anthony Davis is only locked up for 2 more years after this. So your championship window is, in a sense, 3 years. And that's if Kyrie stays. Because if I'm a superstar and Nico Harrison did that to the biggest superstar, probably in Dallas history, what is he going to do to me? I'm not going to have a say, so I want out. You're going to scare a lot of people away with what you just did. So I understand you want to try and go get Giannis. If I were Giannis, I wouldn't want to come to you because you could trade me. You don't treat a superstar like that, in my opinion. This is all my opinion. But I like Max Christie. If you're going to trade for Anthony Davis, you need more than just a 2029 first round pick. Anthony Davis is not on the same level as Luka is, only because Luka is 25. If Luka was a little bit older, cool, that makes sense. Luka's career is coming to an end. This man's career is just starting. He's in his prime. And you traded him for a bag of potato chips. It doesn't make sense. For the Lakers, they have, in a sense, if Luka wants to stay with the Lakers, which we'll see how that goes, LeBron could stay in the league longer now. Because now LeBron doesn't have to shoulder a lot of the load. He's got a superstar next to him that can take a lot of that off of him. Yeah, they're not going to play as much defense. But still, when you've got a 30-point scorer and a 20-point scorer, that's hard to beat. Especially in the playoffs when you know Luka's going to get his bag and you know LeBron's going to get his. So they probably just made LeBron's career longer. If this works out, if they do well together, if their chemistry is great, you just made LeBron's career longer, which good for you, good for the Lakers, good for everyone in that office. Also, the fact that you call the Lakers GM and he's like, no, you're joking with me. That tells you you're doing something wrong. It's ridiculous. I'm glad I don't watch the NBA. The only reason I watched the Mavs was because of Luka. I loved Luka. Loved watching him play, especially in the playoffs because he went from a great player in the regular season and just turned it onto another level in the postseason. He's the reason we made it to the finals last year. It wasn't Kyrie. It wasn't Lively had a great playoff run. So I will not put Lively in that. But he was the sole Tim Hardaway Jr. decided to ghost us in the playoffs. So Luka is the sole reason why we made it to the finals. And you just traded that guy away. That can make a difference, that can win a game for you. Not saying that AD can't do that for you. But you just traded a guy that's going to do that for you probably for the next 6 years.
Let me ask really quick. AD can't do it. You look at what he did in New Orleans. I know New Orleans, granted, is a mess of a franchise, but he didn't win squat until he got traded to LA. It's just different for these kinds of positions. You know, the point guard a lot of the time could carry a lot harder than a power forward / center, and so that's not to disrespect AD, but I mean the fact of the matter is he doesn't have the track record of carrying. Maybe a little bit in LA, he does carry more of the load than LeBron has. Since they both been together, but the fact of the matter is, Luka had a whole weight on his shoulders, especially against Boston. People criticize his defense. What was he supposed to do? Freaking Peyton Pritchard hit 3 half-quarters. Half-court shots in the NBA Finals. Bro hit 3 of them. Albeit one of them might have been a travel, but it didn't matter at that point. What are you supposed to do about that? You know? And when you face a team like that has 6 guys that can put up 20 at any point in time. 6! Not 1, not 2. Peyton Pritchard could have done it. Kristaps could have done it. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown could have done it. Freaking Al Horford could have done it. You can't, if you're going to use that stupid series to say Luka can't play defense, he did get a lot of foul trouble, I will say. Albeit a couple were sketchy. You can't use that as an example of why his conditioning or his defense is so bad, because team in particular is still insanely stacked. It's just a bad example.
Yeah. Well, also he had I saw something where it was during the playoffs where he was the best defender in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So statistically, whether you're watching the game or not, statistically, he was the best defender in the playoffs. Yes, he's not guarding your Jason Tatums. He's not guarding your Anthony Edwards. But still, having a guy that is guarding them and is able to lock those guys down, or at least keep them in control, and then Luka being able to be on someone else and also lock them down.
It's insane.
Well, that's insane. He's putting up 35 on offense, and then he's going out and doing that. Also, the reason why he's probably hurt this year is because of that run.
Right.
He played 70 games last year and then played every game in the playoff. That is a lot. I will also say Boston is also running into that issue also. But like
Sure.
that's a lot to put on one individual that is carrying your team.
Yeah,
Kyrie
and
disappeared when it came to Boston. He showed up in the western
the
side
Western
of
side, but
the
he
playoffs, but he
ghosted.
disappeared in Boston, and you could see Luka had to shoulder all that. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. And the fact that you're saying that it's because he's overweight is why you're
So
trading him. 6'6", 270 isn't that bad.
yeah,
6'6", 270 is actually probably pretty good condition. Also, when he got off the plane and when he did his press conference, the guy didn't look any bigger than he did
no, he
when
didn't.
he got injured.
No, he didn't.
So
It's
what you're telling me is I traded a guy and I'm making up an excuse when all of Dallas wanted him and you didn't care.
so bad. It's just a horrible backstab, and you've just turned off a lot of potential options for free agency. Yeah, I would
I
need a
mean,
full no trade clause, and I would need more control over
where I go.
decisions. If I'm a
Mm-hmm.
star going to Dallas, I'd be like, I don't just need a full trade clause. I need to know when you're trading somebody else now. And that's a lot of power to give to a player. But when you do something this utterly insane and get such terrible value in return for at least who Luca is, there's gonna be a lot of guys that are gonna be like, I'll come here, but you got to give me this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, I'd be willing to come to a discount. Luca can carry. I'm here to support Luca. I just unbelievable. Just a terrible. It's a terrible decision now. It's a terrible decision for your future. You just gotta hope that it works out, and you could somehow swindle a guy like Giannis to
Yeah,
come here. But
Klay Thompson went to the Mavs because of Luka.
literally, and if I'm Clay, I'd be
he made
pissed.
and he made that public. He was like, "No, I'm coming here because I don't have to shoulder as much of a load, and Luka's a great passer and will give me the ball."
And now
And now he's gone. So
he's
you
gonna have to
came to
shoulder more
Dallas
of
for
it.
nothing.
It's just no. All right. Well, I think that's our rant for Luca for right now. Luca, you'll be missed. Um, one disclosure for anybody that rants: no death threats, none of this. Don't take it to the extreme for Nico. At the end of the day, it is just a game. That being said, if you want to call him a bum and if you want him fired every single day, that's totally acceptable. But don't cross a line. Don't get his family involved. They didn't do this. It's his own doing for being an idiot. Unless if Dallas wins somehow. But again, as I mentioned, there's just too many teams I just do not see them beating. But you got to play the game. And a lot of people didn't think Dallas would make the finals last year. So we'll wait and see. But Luca will retire a jersey here in Dallas anyway. It's the least the team could do for what they did to you. So one of the biggest backstabbings in sports history for sure. And there's been a few of those, but this one might top it. So um, we will jump in to quickly talk about MLB really fast, and then we have a couple NHL trades, and then we will call it a day. So MLB, we had two things happen. Pete Alonso off the market, goes back to the Mets, baby. It's about the Mets. 2-year deal. And then Jack Flaherty going back to the Tigers, kind of based. So what are your thoughts on either move? Or which one do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I mean, I think Flaherty going back, good for the Tigers. Get another guy behind Screwball, also a veteran. Whether he gives you what he did in the playoffs against the Dodgers this year, or with the Dodgers this year, doesn't really matter. Gives you another solid arm. Gives you another guy that can help lead the team. Knows what it takes to get to the World Series. I mean, in a sense, won it. But yeah, no, I think it's a good signing for the Tigers. With the Pete Alonso, I think Scott Boras, other than with Juan Soto, is just losing his players' money. We saw it last year with Montgomery. We've seen it with a bunch of other players. Bregman is still on the market. So, yeah. I mean, good for the Mets getting him back. Great guy. He's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's Pete Alonso. He's gonna hit you home runs. He's gonna drive guys in. It gives you protection in a sense for Juan Soto. Like, hey, you want to pitch around Juan Soto? Cool. I got Alonso behind him. So for the Mets, it helps deepen your lineup better. And honestly, it makes you, in my opinion, probably the team to beat, other than the Dodgers in the NL.
Yeah. More details on the Alonso signing really quick. There is an opt-out after year 1, so he could opt in. But more than likely what'll happen is he'll opt out and try to get that long-term extension again next offseason. I think it'll probably happen one way or the other. But he's obviously going to want to do that sooner rather than later, since he is already 30, 31, and you keep playing this 1-year game, and teams are going to get a little bit more scared to want to sign you a long-term deal. But you never know. Some team could give him 15 years and then backstab him after 3. Who knows? Maybe Nico Harrison will try to sign Pete Alonso next year, thinking, oh, he could play basketball. I don't know. But good for Pete Alonso. I mean, it's not what he wanted ultimately, but it was a tough market for him to compete with, considering there were other much cheaper options at first base. And obviously Juan Soto was the prized possession that everybody wanted. So I think this is a good thing for Juan. I'm sure he definitely wanted to keep Alonso there so they can stay as a contender. And I think that exactly does helps them stay as a contender. We'll see if they win the division. Obviously, we know Philly's really good, and Atlanta getting Acuna back again. We'll see if Acuna can stay healthy. He's now torn 2 ACLs, so there is a big question around him now. But when he plays, he's a top 3 player in baseball. So without a doubt. So
yeah, I love that guy.
He's a great guy, and he got screwed by his agent, by the way. 8 years, $100 million. Looking like the agent needs to go, be banned from the sport. That's unbelievable. Atlanta, Hall of Fame immediately for getting someone locked up like that. That is insane, but that's not the topic of conversation. So in terms of Jack Flaherty, I think he's a bum. I'm just a Jack Flaherty hater, naturally. I played in St. Louis, so automatically don't like that guy, but just some of his stupid comments about the Dodgers anyway. Buddy, you were a free agent. Quit glazing him. I know you just won a World Series with them, but shut up. Nobody cares about your stupid opinion about the deferrals. Clearly, LA didn't like you enough to keep you, so keep your dumb mouth shut. But he is a good player, objectively. He had a great year last year, and he fit in with Detroit really well last year. And so it's a great A+ move for the Tigers, to be honest. They got some prospects in return. Do you get your guy back? That's the kind of deal anybody wants. And technically, Luka could do that. If Dallas pulls that off, Nico, no matter how little you got in return, you're a genius. But after what that happened, that won't happen. I would not return to a team that did me like that. But anyway. So I think they're both good moves. Detroit's next move should be get Bregman. Clearly, Boston liked him enough. They would have had him by now. They have the money. So just their owner, John Henry, is a cheap bum. So I think that'd be the next step for the Tigers to get that guy locked up, and you can compete for a division next year, especially since you're in the most mediocre division of all sports, minus the Big Ten West when it used to exist. So, so I think the Tigers will be fun to watch with that move, and hopefully they can go on a nice little deep run next year in the playoffs. So,
yeah, I mean, I think at least in the Central, all 4 teams, or 5 teams, would be in contention.
Well, 4 of the 5, and the White Sox are contentious to moving. So,
well,
they are contenders to sell.
Did you see that? There's 3 teams that have a 0% chance of making the playoffs.
Okay, well, I'm gonna guess them.
Okay, go ahead.
Dodgers, Yankees. realistically, it's got to be the White Sox. There's just no way it's not them. I have to imagine the Rockies, considering their division.
Yep.
And it might be the Athletics, but considering they made moves, okay. So I didn't. This is where it gets a little. Maybe the Marlins. That's my other guess.
That's the third one.
Yeah. Those are the two I was stuck between.
I was also thinking like St. Louis. I feel like their chance has to be really low.
So mid. But the problem is the NL Central. The Central division's kind of swapped. The NL Central used to be pretty competitive, and AL Central was just utter dog water. And now the NL Central now is just wholly mid. Like the Brewers are always good in the regular season, and they're good for one playoff, maybe wild card win. That's about it. Reds are mid. Pirates are mid. Freaking Cubs are literally, I think they went like 83 and 79. They were true definition of mid.
Yep.
And then friggin' St. Louis, another team right now, definition of mid. So I think they do have a chance just because their division blows.
That's fair.
But they have to win their division. That's the one trick with it. When your division's that bad, you're competing for one spot and one spot only. You're not competing for a wild card. Yeah. Especially in the NL. Friggin' NL East has got that locked up. So, barring any surprise teams. But any final thoughts on MLB before we go to NHL really quick?
No, I got nothing.
Okay. Really quickly, a couple NHL trades happened. Blackhawks made an elite move by acquiring half the rights to Mikko Rantanen. I hate this stupid godforsaken team so much.
Wait, so does that mean they have to split time? He has to split time between Carolina and Chicago?
Bro, I wish that's how that worked. That would be sick. But it'd be utterly stupid for us. That would not help us out at all in any way. But yeah, so Mikko Rantanen, this is the biggest trade. There was one other huge one we'll talk about in a second. Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall go to Carolina. Jack Drury and Martin Necas to Colorado. And then, like I said, half of the Rantanen contract is split up by Chicago. I've discussed this with you, but I haven't found it on Google. So I think Chicago fans are just spewing out copium. They are claiming that if Carolina does not extend him, that Chicago has first dibs on being able to offer him a contract and negotiate. I've not seen anything that claims that. So I think whatever Chicago fans are spreading fake news about that, need to either post a source or shut your mouth. Because right now this trade looks stupid. If it is true though, it's kind of genius. You dump off Taylor Hall, wasn't doing anything for you. It was a lot of money, so it was good to get rid of him. And the one thing is, Mikko's deal is it does expire at the end of the year. So like ultimately taking on his contract doesn't hurt you, but like you got a third for Taylor. We got what we gave up for Taylor Hall. Literally. We gave up a third for Taylor Hall, and now we got one back and then took on salary. Perplexingly stupid. But if the rumor is true, or if there's a source about that, we can negotiate with Mikko. It could be completely game changing. And I think it's possible that Carolina could not extend him. This is probably cup or bust for them because they got a couple other guys, once again, got to extend. And as we saw what Carolina did last year, kind of lost a few guys because they're paying a pretty penny to a few others. So, but what are your thoughts on this trade? I think it's huge for Carolina. I think Colorado got a good player, Necas, and he's cheaper, so I think it's good for Colorado, to be honest. And then Chicago looks completely stupid right now.
I agree. I think Carolina got better. They were already a really good team, and getting, especially Mikko, is a good add to that team. I think Colorado also getting Drury and Necas, however you pronounce his name.
It's Necas. I do know that.
He's also, I think they're also underrated. At least anytime the Stars played them. And I've watched a couple games since they went over to Colorado. And they seem like they're fitting in pretty much easily with that system over there. So I think for Colorado, yeah, you unfortunately gave a 100-point guy away. But like you got a pretty decent return with how these other guys are performing with you.
That's a good move. for 2 sides in Chicago. So ultimately, we did get Miko out of it, though. Wouldn't complain. And I'm also seeing rumors that we might try to send an offer sheet for Wyatt Johnston, which would be nice, but I think we'd be wasting our time. Don't need to be wasting time looking into RFAs, but we will explain how that works later. In case if you don't watch NHL, chances are of all the sports we cover, it's the least popular. Shouldn't be, but I will let you cover. I'll just summarize this trade, and then I'm just gonna let you get into it, so we're going a little bit over time, but that's okay. So the Stars get Cody Ceci and Mikael Granlund. I think it's a good move, but gave up a first and a conditional third. So the condition is if they don't make the Stanley Cup, it turns into a fourth. So this is a trade with the Sharks, by the way. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the injury to Heiskanen earlier. I think, and now we're down Lundqvist. He had a shoulder surgery. Wow, hard word to say. And so I think it's a good ad for the Stars. And I mean, Granlund is, in a sense, making up for Sagan being out, another productive guy. Hated him when he was in Nashville because he was a star killer. Hated him in San Jose because every time we seemed to play him, he decided to show up. And so now that he's on the team, his first game, got a point, got an assist on a pretty sick Stankoven goal. So already showing that he is gelling well with the guys. In Anaheim, they all looked bad, other than the fourth line for the Stars. So I won't say that's his fault. As for giving up a first round pick, I saw Nil say that the Sharks wanted one of their younger guys, and Jim Nil was like, absolutely not. I'll give you a first round pick before I give you any of these young guys. Because honestly, I think our system is great. We've got some young guys, unfortunately, that are in the AHL because we just don't have a spot for them.
Good.
Yeah, we have a bunch of young guys. Once again, Stankoven, Johnston, Beck, Bork. Like we're filled with young talent, and if I'm Nil, I don't want to trade any of those guys away. So I might as well just give my first away.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, you're probably not going to get a high round pick anyways. So overall, I think it's a good trade. I love Jim Nill as a GM. There's a reason why he won GM of the Year last year, and is just continuing to do his style of stuff, and in my opinion, probably the best GM in Dallas, which is saying a lot because Chris Young has won a championship.
He's done a great job, and he's done a phenomenal job just getting a ton of prospects for you. So ultimately, you're in a window where you can afford to give up the next. You don't want to give up like 4 or 5 first rounders in a row, but if you did it next year and maybe the year after that, you're fine. Because you got a lot of guys that you're having to develop that'll probably replace. You'll probably lose some guys. Can't pay everybody.
Yeah.
You got the young guys that can replace them. So you put yourself in a really nice spot where you can afford rentals, and losing out on a first doesn't hurt you. Unlike teams like Pittsburgh, where they're still trading away first to pretend they're a contender when they're 8th in their division. So, or whatever. They're towards the bottom of their division. So, yeah, so you got Stars got a great championship contention window right now. There was concerns a little bit when Sagan and Ben were getting a little bit older that it might be closing, and GM comes in and has just done an incredible job replenishing the talent, getting Odin. It started with that 2017 draft, man, when Blake and I went there in my neon green shirt, baby. Seeing you snag Heiskanen, although McCarr would have been nicer, but Heiskanen's been phenomenal, not to criticize him, and Odinger in the same first round. And then the next day, didn't get to witness this, but J-Rob in the second, one of the best drafts I've ever seen a team pull off, ever, period. Just an insane draft. And Dallas's championship window starts with that draft class. Just an insane job. So major kudos to that front office, unlike their counterpart that they share within the same building. So, So kudos to Dallas, and they're in a great spot. So, and they've obviously had a lot of deep playoff runs recently. Just got to find a way to get it done now. So that's their biggest hurdle. One other trade, really quickly, is and then we'll just one last final thought on something else, and then we'll just talk about very briefly about Josh Allen. Is JT Miller to the Rangers? And Vancouver acquires Philip Schittle, Victor Mancini, and a first-round pick. The Rangers will also, in return, get Eric Brandstrom, who was a bum, and Jackson Dorrington. So, quick thought for me is kind of perplexing for Vancouver to do this. I get there were talks that there were locker room issues between JT and Pettersson. Ultimately, you were just a Stanley Cup contender last year, and to just not try to work things out to me is crazy. You gave up a quality player, and by the way, in JT's first game as a Ranger, they lost, but he scored 2 goals. So I find it hard to believe that he was the sole problem with what's going on in Vancouver. And I watched Vancouver the night he was traded. So he was obviously, was not going to play that day because those finalization of trades take hours. So he's not going to play regardless. But I mean, I just looking at Vancouver, it's Quinn Hughes and who else right now? Because Elias Pettersson's not showing up. He's been really bad this year. So to give up a guy like that, you're trying to make the playoffs. You're clearly giving up way too early, in my opinion. And I don't think the return justifies trading a guy like JT Miller. I think the Rangers got the best out of this. I know the Rangers have been kind of on and off. I know they just lost 3 in a row recently, but before that, they did heat up. And the other thing is, the Eastern Conference is so utterly mid that you could be 9th out of 15th in that conference and be 4 points out of a wild card spot. Mm-hmm. So, to be honest, this is huge for the Rangers. I think this move turns them around. And at worst, it'll give them that last wildcard spot, I think this will be enough to help spark whatever issues for whatever dumb reason they're having. I think this is a huge move for them. So, yeah, Vancouver, I disagree with doing this. I get sometimes trading a supposed cancer away helps your locker room, but I think it's demoralizing more than anything. I think you've given up on your year, and you're only 2 points behind the most mid team in sports history in Calgary. Calgary's always the most mid hockey team ever. You're telling me you couldn't catch up to Calgary? You couldn't figure out your locker room problems? I don't like that. So, no offense to Flames fans. I'm sorry. I don't mean to throw strays at you, but I mean, y'all know. You're mid. You got fleeced by Florida. So, thoughts though on the JT Miller move?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's wild to think that you could work anything out with those two. Rangers got the better end of the deal, even though they gave up a little bit for it. But yeah, I don't know. I think Vancouver's Stanley Cup window was open when they had him. I think it's now officially shut again. Because there's no way that just Pettersson just Quinn Hughes can carry this team. Demko has been injured a lot of the year, so I will give him a little bit, a little slack there. Sure. But even if he's 100% healthy and is doing Demko things, you're still not a contender. There's the whole Central Division that you're going to have to work through. Vegas, who has, shown that they're going to be a contender for a long time. Edmonton, yeah. So you trading away Miller gives away, in a sense, a third of your offense. Even if you are struggling in the locker room or whatever is going on in the locker room, I think that shows more of a coach issue than anything. That's a different conversation that we can have a different day. But you just trade away, honestly, in my opinion, a really good goal scorer, really good point man to a team that honestly needs a spark, and I think they got their spark.
So that's that trade. We had one other trade, but we'll cover it next week. The last thing we're going to discuss, I did just briefly bring it up before, but the reason I'm wearing this I was at a Stars game recently last Friday, so that's part of the reason why I didn't have an episode last week. On top of the fact that last episodes ran really long, and this one's like running long too. But you know, rants are gonna happen. So, um, but so I went to see the Stars and Canucks. So obviously, part of that experience was finding out, as we just talked about, JT Miller was in the process of getting traded. I was hanging out in Dallas all day, so I had no idea this was even developing. I didn't really know there was drama in their locker room because I don't pay attention to Canada. I haven't won a Stanley Cup since '92, so skill issue. Um, I before you say, "Well, the teams are full of Canadian players," I don't care. Skill issue. Um, I'm just messing around. But so yeah, that was obviously a big sort of bummer. You know, you want to see all the best players out on the ice, but at the same time, it's like, we still get to see Quinn Hughes. You know, Blackhawks were one pick away from getting him. I'm still mad we didn't trade up with Vancouver. So freaking mad, but not gonna talk about that. So obviously another guy that was injured when we first got to the game is Miro. I didn't know that happened. I think the Vegas game was just before, one or two games before, I think, this game. So I was not aware at the time that Miro got hurt. So stunned to not be able to see him. First time I would have seen him live since 2019, and second time since I got to see him drafted in person. So so it was kind of a bummer not to see him, but at least there was a scare that we thought Jake Ottinger would not play that night, as I texted you very briefly. But I thought we are going to see your backup, Casey DeSmith, Blake's biggest fan. Actually, I'm curious to see how he's going to react to that. But thankfully, got to see the Outer, another guy, as I mentioned, saw drafted live in person. Really cool experience. But yeah, so we were third level. Really convenient seats. We were literally like the aisles right here, seats are right there, so don't have to maneuver around anybody to get snacks or anything like that. The one bummer was we were right in front of like the aisle itself, so like the glass panel surrounding it did sort of get in the way at times whenever teams are coming down into the zone we were facing. But ultimately, Vancouver was shooting towards our way twice. So I was okay with that. And if I really had to look, I could just use the scoreboard. But in terms of actual experience, it's a good game. Obviously, Dallas looked a little fatigued, might have been a little deflated with the news of Miro. You can definitely tell they were struggling a little bit early, just in terms of getting the puck out of the zone and missing someone as experienced as Miro. But ultimately, they were outshot 29-16. They did not get a lot of shots, but they got a lot of quality shots. Once they were able to get around they won dumped it into the zone and won those forechecks. They were dominant. Once they got to the behind the net, that's how they scored one of their goals. Tapped behind the net. I forgot who got the assist, but Oscar Back, whatever how you say it. I apologize. Yeah. He scored a one-timer in front of in the slot there. So it was huge that they were establishing the presence behind the net. Helped them settle things down a bit. And for those that don't know, my score prediction in that game was 4-1, and with 2 minutes left, it was 4-1 off an empty netter. What'd you guess the final score, people? If you guessed 4-1, you're way wrong. It was 5-3. I was so mad. I was 2 minutes away from looking like a genius, and Vancouver decided to score a power play goal, which was Mickey Mouse. It was not slashing. Literally got the stick. He did not get his hands whatsoever. But it did enable Dallas to win the faceoff in that shorthanded goal, the empty netter. So I guess it cancels out. And then Dallas got another empty netter. And I was like, okay, all right, well, it's 5-2. That's fine. I was close enough. And then the friggin' Vancouver, with 3 seconds left, gets a Mickey Mouse one-timer, garbage time goal to make it 5-3. And I think we were all kind of stunned by that. We were like, what just happened? But ultimately, it didn't matter. Statistically, it was impossible for Vancouver to win at that point. So it was a great experience. I forgot how cold hockey games can be, but it felt nice. Got this hat, which is pretty sweet. For those that hate on the Stars colors, you're crazy. You should just go look at, friggin' Nashville. Looks like friggin' mustard, for crying out loud. Disgusting. Of course, I'm biased, and you're probably biased too, so I can't really have an objective opinion on a team like Nashville. But yeah, so it was a great game. Look forward to seeing them again down the road in the future, whenever that will be. And then my next experience, I'll talk about more. I'm going to see the Blue Jackets in person. They have an outdoor game against the Red Wings on March 1st. I'll be seeing that. And there are developing talks that me and my friend are going to go balls to the wall crazy. And we're going to go to Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely insane. And they're from the 11th and the 12th. The Mariners are going to be playing at home, and the Kraken are going to be playing at home. So there might be preliminary talks that we're going to fly out to the worst located city for sports, just period, and try to knock out those two and for my want to see all MLB and NHL stadiums. MLB first. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. But I think it is going to happen. So I'm pretty excited about that. But Stars, good job, A+. Blackhawks, you suck. Poverty, Mickey Mouse, you had nothing to do with it. But I'm still pissed about the Miko contract. So, so that's that. So, last thing, really fast. I know I said that, but talk really quickly. MVP was Lamar. No, it wasn't. It was Josh Allen. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this one surprised me. I thought it was Lamar Jackson's the whole way. But I was watching the Pat McAfee show, and the guy, Tony, that has an AP vote, actually explained it really well. And I actually agreed with him, and I think Allen deserved it. Yes, Jackson had the better stats, but if we're gonna take the name most valuable player into consideration, Josh Allen was that. Buffalo had no reason to be where they were this year. When you lose Stephon Diggs, and then he has no wide receivers other than Shakir, but the reason Shakir is because of Josh Allen. It makes sense on why Josh Allen won. The dude pretty much took an offense other than Cook and made them an AFC championship game team. And in a sense, one snap away from possibly making it to the Super Bowl. So, in my opinion, yes, I actually agree with this. I like that Josh Allen won. I thought he was going to get snubbed yet again. But I'm glad that this happened. Apparently, there was a moron that put Lamar Jackson fourth on his vote.
Okay, Josh Allen, Saquon, who would have been third?
Jamar Chase.
It's not the worst thing I've heard. I'll hear him out, but that's dumb. But I've heard way worse.
If he would have put
if he put Mahomes, I would have thrown hands.
This is also where I'm struggling to understand why they do the voting the way they do, because there are people that are just are pitiful and have grudges against people, and they don't vote for that person. Basically,
I just say screw on that. Only players vote at this point,
but yeah, no, I'm glad Allen won. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a Super Bowl, but now people can stop saying, well, he can't make the Hall of Fame because he doesn't have an MVP. He does.
He does. Yeah. Yeah, I like that Joshy Poo got it. Lamar may have gotten screwed. I do feel bad this year, but in hindsight, he shouldn't have won last year. His numbers were, again, Lamar was Lamar-ish, but he was not up to the standard we saw in his 2019 season or this year. Quarterback play last year, for whatever dumb reason, was just utter trash. So he should definitely have gone to CMC or Tyreek last year. Nonetheless, Lamar's a heck of a player. I hate that he's in Baltimore. Respect the snot out of that guy, though. He is an insane athlete. And thank goodness New England drafted Sonny Michel over him. Freaking idiots. But and Nick Chubb, by the way. Oh my gosh. Colossal fumble the bag. But whatever. Whatever. Got Drake May Mondays now. But yeah, so good for Josh. It was long overdue. He's had to carry for a long time, even with Stefan. So I think it's good that he finally got one knocked out of the way. For Lamar to have 3 would have been kind of insane. Albeit, again, though, he's talented enough to say he deserves 3. I just think it's just a matter of fine-tuning when Lamar should be winning or when these other guys should be nominated. So, yeah, Jamar Chase being 3rd over Lamar, questionable. I get it. I will hear him out, but like ultimately, who's throwing to him? Joe Burrow. Yeah, you got to put Joe Burrow over Jamar if anything, and Joe Burrow got screwed. That's the guy that should have had a lot more votes than he did. That's my one thing. Is just what was Joe supposed to do? He was healthy all year. He had Jamar balling out with him, 40 touchdowns. And if you can't make the playoffs, that is not on you, unless if you had he didn't have a lot of turnovers. If he had 15 or 16 turnovers, then yeah, I could blame him a little bit. But he had 7 or 8, That's MVP numbers right there. So I can't fault him for that. So I do feel bad for Joe. Yeah, I think we need to. I mean, of course, all those guys that are AFC could start debating. Should we just start doing AFC and NFC MVPs? Because again, Saquon, I very easily should have had an argument of winning it too. Hit 2,000 yards. He clearly, 2 was another guy that he saved the dude's job. I mean, you forget what happened to the Eagles. They just last year, colossal fumble of the second half, get blown out by Tampa Bay. I read those comment sections because I'm a professional hater, and I was laughing at Philly at the time. Everyone wanted Sirianni fired, and now it's just it's nothing happened. And it's because Saquon opened up so many things for Philly. Josh Allen did the same thing, but he didn't get help. Saquon was finally given what he should have been given by New York. So I think that's another guy should have maybe won over Josh. But
I will say at least Saquon won Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he did that. He did. So he rightfully so. Still could have probably should have won MVP period from what he did, but I'm glad Josh still won it. And maybe this gives Philly an opportunity to win on Sunday. MVP curse. I can't remember the last time someone's won MVP and won a Super Bowl. Might have been Kurt Warner. I don't even think Tom Brady did it. And maybe Mahomes. I don't think he did, but yeah. So good for you, Josh. You got one. Freaking beat Mahomes in a playoff game, man. I know it's not your fault, but please, for our sanity, do that. All right, we ran long again, but I'm not surprised by that. Any final thoughts before we head out?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, well, we'll talk to y'all next week. We will not have as much to talk about because, MLB's slowly picking up. No college football. NFL will be done. So we'll be mostly just doing some little games and maybe any minor signings. So, and maybe even desperate enough to talk about NBA, depending on what happens. Probably not, though. So thank you all for listening, though. And screw you, Nico Harrison. One last shout out to that idiot. You're a bum. You are America's most hated person right now. We will talk to you all later.